That question one, when we big.
I'm like, that's actually probably a good thing because
How's the year like the way I'm out of school? Well, they're taking it. Yeah. Well, yeah, they're taking it. Shannon said it's down. She was there. She said North is good. Good. Yep.
He's been rocking out there. She has an IEP.
Who's in the middle school?
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Trinity here in our listening session, and it's good to see all of you here. There's a lot to talk about tonight. We don't have lots of answers maybe for you tonight, but we're here to listen to what it's on your mind about potential high school here at Trinity, and we just are so happy that you're here and this much interest. We had no idea what to expect for a turnout for something like this, and so we're just very happy that you all have made time in your busy evenings to be with us this night. Let's start our time with prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of our children, and as we look forward to their future and what that future looks like for schooling and education, and especially faith-based education, Lord, we just ask you to continue to be with our discussions this night, continue to bless this school and all of our teachers and staff as we continue to educate children here under the cross, and just be with us this night to give us a vision and a clear understanding of where we are in this process. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, I'd like to bring up Principal. Yeah, the big hat. Yes, four more here. That's right. It's like he has a big enough head already. I don't have to add to it. No. Principal Steve Schonecker would like to come up and add some introductory remarks, then we'll turn over to LCEF.
Thank you, Vice President Schreiber. I made the mistake. I spoke at my grandma's wedding. This is starting off great. Funeral on Friday. And I said, well, I just want to officially announce my name's Stephen Schonecker, and I am my grandma's favorite grandchild. Not knowing that my cousin spoke last, so she had the last word. So there you go. No, we're super excited about tonight, and the real reason we're here is whether the pool at this facility has salt water or chlorine. So that's what we're basing this on. No, I want to introduce this awesome group that we have with us here that we've partnered with. Maybe stand up when I say her name just so they know. Christy and Jonathan with LCEF. So that's thank you. That's the Lutheran Church Extension Fund. And then Tyler with Studio EA right here in Hudson. And they've kind of been our support through all this, and we're just happy to have them. It was a super exciting day with them. The most exciting thing was that to hear from all the interviews they got to do with staff, that they talked about how nice it is to be in a school community that is thriving and that is so positive. And that was awesome to hear as the principal of a school, to know that that's what stands out to this group that works with schools every day. So that was super cool. Also, tonight is about you. It's about getting your opinion out. It's about hearing what you value about our current offering here at Trinity, and then what you'd look for at the next possible level, adding a high school program. A little background as to where we are right now. For those of you, I do see some faces I don't recognize. Trinity, we are at 95.8% capacity in this building. So we have, through kindergarten through 8th grade, we have 222 students right now. And we cap our classes at 26. We are a one-section building, which means we just have one class per grade level. We also have roughly 83 4K students that pass through Trinity. That is 30% of the 4K students in Hudson, so that's pretty special. Yes. As I've gotten to know Trinity more, I've understood that how important that mission is in our 6-week to 4-year-old programs, and the work that our teachers do with these kids, because that's what builds the foundation for a life of faith for these kids. And that's what we're trying to do here, expand the kingdom of God through 18. That's really what this is about. We had conversations today about what I kind of value about this, and what I value is, as a parent, when I remove my principal hat and put myself in your shoes, you know that this school operates on a biblical parameter. That's it. Doesn't matter who's in office. You know the parameters that your kids are learning within and what they're learning each day. And that's a beautiful thing. Nobody likes unpredictable situations, and what we have here is very predictable. It's teachers that care about kids, teaching the Word of God, and that's something to celebrate. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to this wonderful group, and they told me they'll be able to run this just seamlessly, so here we go.
Can you hear me now? Yes. All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Jonathan Ward with LCEF, and it's great to be here. I'm so glad all of you chose to spend your Tuesday night with us, and it really has been a pleasure talking with your teachers and advisors and administrators and pastors today, because you have something special going on here. This is a community that people feel strongly about, that they support, that they care about, and it's very, very encouraging. I go around the country and see the state of our congregations and our schools, and that's not always the case. A lot of our schools or our congregations are suffering, and to see a community that's as vibrant and as excited as you guys are just brings joy to my heart. I'm blessed by what we've seen here today. And so I just wanted to start our conversation tonight by eliciting from you some more of that feedback on what you cherish about Trinity, what is special about this place, and then to go from there a little bit further into what do we want the next step to look like. If we were to develop a high school, what would that look like as far as academics, sports, programming of the space? What will its identity be? What sets it apart from the other schools available in the community? And we are going to really listen to you. It's not so much for us to talk, it's to give you the opportunity to tell us, what do you want us to come back with you with plans for this? We need our architect to have direction. Tyler needs your thoughts and input on what assumptions he should make for space planning. And Christy needs to understand on the education side, what do we need for teachers, what do we need for curriculum, what do we need for identity for this school, and what sets it apart. So I guess with that, I'll turn it over to you, and let's talk about, first of all, what is unique, what is special about Trinity, and why do we want to consider a high school here in Hudson?
Now you know what these teachers deal with, not everybody at once. I have a mic, so if you do have a question.
Okay, so one thing I could say unique about you, Trinity, is they listen to parents' concerns. They don't just listen to a parent and go, okay, yeah, we get it, and then listen to a school board that has no clue what's going on at the school. So that is extremely important to me, is that we as parents still have a say on what's being told to our kids at school, how things are being handled at the school, and I feel like Trinity listens to us and we actually see action on their part when we don't agree with something, or if we do agree with something, they actually take it and listen and run with it.
And what's your name?
Carissa.
Carissa. Yeah, if you could also give us your name, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Michelle. I wish I could have had more time to think about this because there's a million things that are special about Trinity. Probably one thing I can add on to, I agree with what you just said too, but I think accountability, like our teachers and the principal hold our kids accountable, and they teach them high values and high standards, and they hold them accountable to that.
We got another Michelle here. So I have one kid that's in the Hudson School District, and then I had my daughter start here last year. And one of the main reasons is I had a lot of referrals from friends saying how great it is. And now that I've been here for over a year, my kid's in the 4K, I can see that the interaction with the teachers and my child, it's one-on-one, it's personal, it's not just a script, and the teachers really care. And they also coach the kids on their behaviors and how they interact with other students. That was something I wasn't seeing at previous daycares. I don't see it at schools very often, so instead of it just being, I don't know, managing the pile of kids, it's nice to see that they're actually learning and focusing on the academics and then also on how to be kind to each other. So it's thoroughly appreciated.
Oh, I'm Emily, and I'm also a 4K mom. And the faith-based piece is what has really stood out to me. I really appreciate that faith is not just in our home, that it is talked about at school. Last year, I was really impressed with the lessons I had heard Mrs. Nelson deliver in the classroom when I was volunteering. I was just really blown away at how thorough they were and in depth, and the way she was able to make it developmentally appropriate for how old were they? 3 and 4-year-olds. So that's why I'm so interested in Trinity and why it feels so important to my family.
I have a different perspective. I'm on the wait list. Okay, I'm on the wait list.
Remind me your name.
Sorry. Kristen Hansen. So, I moved to Hudson 3 years ago, really looking for better schools, quite frankly. Moved out of the metro area. And was encouraged and optimistic about the Hudson School District. Although I will say that there are things that make it very challenging to be a parent of a child who wants to be able to express their faith and religious freedom in school. And the approach that they take to the behavior aspects that other parents have mentioned is very different. It's very much from the social emotional learning perspective, which I am at significant odds with, and in fact have pulled my children from those aspects of the curriculum because I don't agree with the perspectives that are shared regarding emotional management and things of that nature because of the faith values that we express in our family and our own private home. And so I think one of the challenges with the public school, even as a parent who has been very vocal, people who know me in this room know I have been very vocal. While we've had some success in getting the district to maybe pull back on a couple things, it still remains a challenge to allow our values and perspectives to be fully tolerated and appreciated. And so that's what I'm excited about the opportunity that a high school would provide, is that worldview that is going to allow for that faith expression of our children and allowing our children to be guided by that rather than by worldly values that, quite frankly, are really hard to resist for middle schoolers and high schoolers, along with, yes, of course, sports are important, extracurriculars, those sorts of things, but having a school that emphasizes a biblical worldview is really, really important.
Hi, I'm Pete Hillman. I totally agree with everything that's been said. The faith-based education's critical, and we've just seen our daughter blossom in her faith. Another aspect, as our daughter's been in the school since pre-K, 3K, and just how the size of the classes, are moderate, 26s, it's a healthy class, but how they work together and where they can bring in older students to help mentor the younger students, and seeing them at chapel and how they cheer each other on is just amazing. So I love the classes, but then how the school functions as a whole has just been amazing.
And I'm Julie Hillman. I just want to give a shout out to every teacher over here that has had our daughter in class. Every one of you could stand up and not only tell us, all of us, our daughter's name, but what her strengths are, what her weaknesses are, her personality, what she loves. Thank you. That means the world.
Hi, Michelle again. I'm also thinking about the sense of patriotism that this school instills. I remember well the moment that I knew I wanted my daughter here, and they said the Pledge of Allegiance, and they ended with God Bless America. And in that moment, when I heard that, I knew I wanted her to be here. So, but not only do they instill a sense of patriotism for their country, but also for their community, in a sense of, like I know they go around and they, do prayers for the community. They walk around. They just do a lot of community support, and they know that that's important.
Hi, I'm Nicole. So I just have to share, and this has all been said, but the faith-based, my son, today I just said that I was going to a meeting, and he goes, oh, you're going to the meeting about the high school at my school, and he's like, Mom, I just am so glad that I am able to pray at school. And he's 6 years old, and so for a mom to hear that, it just blesses my heart that these kids have that capability and aren't afraid. Because he does know from his cousins that go to other schools that that's not okay or something that they do. So he really values that.
Hi, I'm Angela. I have an 8th grader, and he's been here since preschool. I get really emotional, sorry. Some of the moms and I have talked for years about these 8th graders and how it would be wonderful to have a private school in the Hudson area. The closest ones we have are many miles away. They're across the border, although many of these families are across the border. And so that was another thing, was to be able to keep our kids together, bring in kids from other private schools in the area, bring in kids from the public schools that may just feel better going into a safer environment. The faith-based is very important. Also, one of the things that I like about middle school here, they do go into world politics, go into social aspects, but they look at it from a Christian viewpoint. And so they're not being thrown out into the social world, but they're being prepared to deal with the social world. And that's one thing with having a private high school, would be to be able to learn about things like riots, or, my son, I was informed that my son stood up after they had their, got their presidents and vice presidents and all that stuff, their voting. And he stood up in class and had a big confrontation because it was the girl that won, and he wanted the boy that won, and going on and on and on. And the teacher turned around and said, okay, that's enough. And he's like, oh, okay. And so, they know how to do these kinds of things, but they also know how to do it respectfully and to stop. So those are kind of some of the things with high school. My daughter's at the high school here, and it's okay. The Hudson High School is a pretty decent school compared to others that I'm aware of. I'm from the Twin Cities, so I'm aware of things. So it's nice for the future. I mean, I know my son's in 8th grade, so he's going to miss out on this high school probably. But for the future kids to have that available is wonderful. I'm so excited that you're able to do this. I'm excited that possibly being able to move the middle school out of this building, and then our 26 kids in a class can split into 2 classes of 16 to 20, and we can just expand that way also, is another thing to be excited about. And you're talking about important things for high school. I'm a big music person. So to have extracurriculars, but including music is important. And then other things, the science and computers and things that'll help also, but that's not my phone, okay. Anyways, those are my thoughts about why we like Trinity and why it would be nice to be able to add a Christian school and be central towards that for the high schoolers.
My name is Rico. I've had kids here now for 13 consecutive years, 6 of them so far, another one on the way. I think over that period of time, I think what has been most valuable to our family, specifically that period during COVID, where we had administration here and teachers that were willing to stand up and oppose the evil that was trying to be imposed upon our children. Our kids were not treated like little virus spreaders. They got to display the image of their created image bearers of God, their faces shown, and to not go through that period scared to death. Life was as close to normal as you could make it in this building here because of people sitting over there. And so that leads me to my point. The biggest job that we have as parents is to create and educate our children for the moment of their death. And that is that they will see God. And if we are going to send our children out of our homes for the most formative periods, we send them into the care of people who understand that our children bear the image of God, and that we pray with all our might that they will see him face to face one day. And so we have teachers and administration that partner with us in that most precious task. And so to have education that sees at the very top Jesus is Lord, and then everything they learn, math, science, social studies, English, all of that comes under that umbrella. And whereas when we send our kids to government schools, they have to drop that at the door or keep it quiet. And so they're essentially not being educated because all knowledge comes from God. And if we have a teachers in schools, now a lot of people have the idea that kids should be missionaries to their government schools. Well, we send them to the education all through. Right now it stops at 8th grade here in Hudson. And so, but they need that 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th to really get in and understand and see, understand the science, the algebra, the chemistry, all that, and look at their careers. And it all falls under the heading is Jesus is Lord. So if we can add on that they're doing here in that regard for 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders, it would be a tremendous blessing to this community.
My name is Drew Roll. I'm coming from St. Bridget Parish School in River Falls, and then this is another fellow mom. I also teach there. And so she kind of opened the door back there to talking about people from other communities. And so I guess that's what I'm here to say is that you have definite interest from people in River Falls, probably Ellsworth, probably Prescott too. I know of a lot of families that are really hoping for a Christian Catholic high school. And so, yeah, there's definitely strong interest, and we're really excited about this opportunity. And I think back in 2003, 2004, I think St. Bridget's was maybe trying to get a high school started, but they ran into hiccups and roadblocks, I think, with maybe athletics and things like that. So, yeah, if we could get this going, we would really, really appreciate it, and we would be totally on board. So.
Hi, I'm Luke. We got Natalie here. We interviewed a lot of schools, and we were really shocked at how many Christian schools even embraced like the alphabet groups, and I'm sure you know what I mean by those. And we were really encouraged when we found out that this school was completely against it in all forms and was a very conservative school. So that made us really happy to bring her because we didn't get her in until first grade. So she had already started kindergarten. When she got into first grade, the education she got was just, drastically better than anything she got in public school. So we really appreciated that.
Natalie was the second person I got to admit to school, so I love hearing that.
Hi, my name is Guy Victor. My son is Malik, who just graduated last year. I think what makes this school so special comes from the top down. Allison, I think Allison is here. Allison Johnson, the former principal. Steve. They are just wonderful people, and it shows through the staff. The staff are amazing. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Malsack, who else? I mean, I'm gonna miss everyone. Mrs. Straka, Mrs. Barr, so loving people. My son, we adopted my son. You know, we struggled with him, and he was a challenge in school. But Mrs. Johnson and Steve, you know, we met with them. We had meetings with the teachers, and we just, you know, tried to help Malik adjust to the school. And with their just kindness, their love, their understanding, he's such a different person, and it's because of these teachers. And the people that come here are so blessed to have them. And that's what we're missing. It's like people who generally care for our children. I'm a former public school teacher. I taught third grade for 21 years. And when I come here and I see the teachers and their love, the genuine love for these kids are just amazing. And I thank each and every one of you who put their time and effort. Mr. Malsack would tutor Malik after school. And just the love he showed Malik is just unbelievable. We need a Christian school here in Hudson because the other communities around us will come here. Malik goes to Concordia Academy with 2 other girls that graduated from here. And we were just looking for a school, but there's nothing here in Hudson. And I know we will draw people from the surrounding communities, and they will come here. Thank you.
Sorry, it's me again. I just wanted to build on what some of the other people were saying. I know my child's very young, but one of the things that I was hoping for, bringing her here into Trinity, I think others have stated it really well, is that our desire for standards of excellence and everything, it's all comes from God as the baseline and having that understanding. And I think that as a community, and like both me personally and like a lot of people I know, I think there's just like people are starving for the opportunity to really, I don't know, breathe, I guess. I mean, that's how I feel. It's like society and all of like the evolution of technology has gone so fast in the last couple years. Like our kids are just starving for purpose. There's adults that are starving for purpose, and I feel like not having a Christian option is like it's just needed. I feel that the demand is here in Hudson and the surrounding areas, and especially with kids in those teenage years. Those teenage years are so hard normally, and I see so many kids just, you know, stuck on their phones, living in social media. It's like they're not even living in the real world sometimes, and I just think having God as the center and then being able to have a community around them to support them and be able to learn about these really complex issues in an environment so they can develop critical thinking skills is really essential. So even though my child's very young, these are things I've thought about very deeply, and I really want my child to be able to experience that type of environment so that when they graduate and they're an adult and they go off and do whatever, they at least have that really strong foundation to succeed and be able to essentially fend off the evils of the world, because it's pervasive. I mean, everywhere you look, just even videos on Facebook and stuff, like, oh, that's funny, and I'm like, that shouldn't even be on the internet, that's just... So being able to prepare our kids for what it is nowadays, I think it's really important and essential for us to have a high school so they can thrive and hopefully bring other people into the fold and be able to have that positive experience.
Hey, I'm Carrie. To answer your question, in my perspective, the thing that sticks out for myself as a parent, and it's the teachers. And so, like, I love a lot of what's been said, but at the end of the day, I had the privilege last year of volunteering week after week inside of one of our classrooms. And the part that I will tell anybody on the street, in other neighborhoods, what have you, is I was so impressed with how engaged the teaching staff was with the whole group of students, right? So you take 26 kids and, you know, whatever age group it is, and you try to connect with them on their level, right? And so first you got to figure out where they're at, and then you try to actually teach them, right? Like, each one of them deserves a year worth of learning, right? And so it's not just about, let's teach everybody 1 + 1, even if they know it already or if they don't know it, right? But it's, you get the point. So I was super impressed with the fact that our teaching staff could do that, right? Could accomplish that. And I remember one particular kiddo on day 1 was learning phonics, and, you know, a couple months later is literally reading me a book, and a few months after that is reading at a higher level, and it just, like, you could see the progression, and part of that's normal, right? Like, you'd expect that in an academic setting. But then you also had other kids that maybe started off reading at a certain level, and they advanced an entire academic grade level during that year too. And so I think a lot of what's been said is super important, but to me, it's also really important that my kid gets a great academic experience. And that happens in this building, but that happens because of our teachers. And so making sure that we can maintain and have a very high caliber teaching staff, especially when you're talking high school, right? Because I will give a shout out to our middle school teachers, although I don't have a middle school student, but I've talked to many of them, and they'll talk about, you know, how they meet different students at different levels. Like, they might add in a geometry class because you've got kids that are capable of doing it, even though it's not part of the curriculum. And so when I think of that at a high school level, it's that with, like, AP classes and things of that nature, so that, again, you're able to meet every kid at whatever caliber that they can handle and push them and drive them to do better under everything that's been already said. But that's, to me, that's just, I don't want to miss that point.
I'm going to hand this to my wife, but I will say that I was elected to the Somerset School Board here last spring, and we pulled our daughter out, and she goes to school here now. So that'll tell you something.
So as Steve said, Jolene Degelau, Steve Degelau, Grace Degelau, we are transplants from Minnesota, 3 years. We moved over to Somerset, hoping for good things, believing in good things, and we were unfortunately disappointed with the public school, but we still are working hard to make change where it can be changed. Anyway, our experience so far in this short time, Grace just started 3rd grade, has been, I can't even put into words, we didn't even know what we didn't know. Academically, the rigor is astounding. I'm trying to talk to other families in Somerset and going, hey, you know, we're missing out. Your kids are missing out on a lot. And this is just in 3rd grade. The acceptance of mediocrity in the public schools is so disappointing when you have, you know, children at all levels of the learning spectrum, on the higher levels, begging for more, and them saying she's at the highest level on her iPad app that she can go. I don't know what more you want. It's just so disappointing, and to have her in this environment, to know that she is getting challenged, that her full academic potential is being realized. Along with that, her faith perspective and our family's faith is being reinforced, respected. Our family values are safe and going to be safe when she goes to school, because let me tell you, our children are at risk. These children, especially in 9th grade, 10th grade, we were just at a board meeting last night because these children are at risk, and it is not right. And we speak out, but we can't subject our children to this. Our values are being compromised. Our children are getting fed political agendas from whichever teacher decides it is their job and not our job. And children that are coming from other private schools, and they have to stop and they have to start the 9th grade. These are kids that are all experiencing this. We're coming from Somerset. I just talked to a family today that is fed up. There are families that will drive. There are families that will invest to make sure their children are psychologically and spiritually safe and that have a rigorous academic experience.
For those of you from out of town, we do have openings in 2nd grade. So, send them down, we'll give them the tour, the whole 9. Gotta laugh, right?
Jeremy, I had 2 daughters that have been through Trinity, have now moved on to the public schools. I have one still in Trinity. I want to add on to the point she had earlier around the teachers and the rigor that's put around the curriculum and whatnot. My 2 older daughters are very well prepared when they moved on to public school. They were ahead of their peers, for sure. I think to extend that into like expectations from a high school perspective, we keep that, we have... Jeremy, you got cut off. I think I got it. All right. So I think having a curriculum that is not only challenging, it needs to be challenging, but also diverse enough to cover the different students we're going to have, right? Not every student's going to have the same path post high school, and having something that they can all be successful at and giving them options and having something that's diverse enough to challenge them and challenge them in a way that they can be successful. It's battery, it's blinking red.
You got a loud voice.
I think my point is, I made most of my point, just a challenging curriculum that allows every student to be successful, regardless of what their plans are post-high school, right? Not every kid's gonna go to college, not every kid's gonna have the same path. Give them the opportunity to be successful in whatever path is right for them, I think is very important. And that happens in the elementary school, for sure.
To feed off on his point, I think the last couple of years has opened a lot of parents' eyes to what's really going on. And also realizing how the public schools fall very short at preparing our kids to actually live an adult life. Not every kid's going to want to go to college. Do they know how to balance a checkbook? Do they know how to apply for a loan? Do they know how to get a credit score? Do they know how to actually function as a productive person to society without having to go, hey, mom and dad, I have to move back home? How many kids are moving back home now because they don't know what to do? So for me, it's not just a matter of having a rigorous curriculum. Yes, I want my kids to be challenged in their education, but I want them to leave knowing how to take care of themselves. So to me, it's a full round, and I promise you, there are enough parents out there right now that are going, does my kid know how to cook a dinner? Does my kid know how to do laundry? I mean, I'm not saying teach them that stuff, but we're talking about kids who literally, they don't know how to do these things, and that's really scary. So having a well-rounded curriculum as well as a challenging one, like he said, kids are gonna go different paths. Not every kid's gonna go to college. Maybe encourage trade school for those who do not wanna go to college, or teach them how to be entrepreneurs. how to start their own business, because maybe that's what they're going to be good at. So those are some things that, as a parent, seeing how a lot of children today fall short, I would maybe like to see in the curriculum.
I do want to give the Hudson High School a little bit of credit here because they do some of these things that parents are talking about. And so, I mean, from a trade school perspective, they offer programs focused on trades. They also offer partnerships with local businesses for kids to get who are interested in entrepreneurial activities. So maybe those are some opportunities where the private high school wouldn't have to build out their own paths for those sorts of things. Maybe they could partner with and pair with the current programs that the high school offers and have those who are attending the Trinity School also be accepted into some of those programs because the high school does currently offer some of those. In addition, the high school does emphasize financial literacy as an important aspect of being able to graduate, as well as a civics course. Now, again, I'm not going to claim I know all the details about the civics course, but I agree that patriotism is really important. And so that is one thing I'm happy that the high school still continues to emphasize, is that civics and civic engagement is important. Now, again, I think the lens that message is delivered through is what really matters and what's really important, right? So where's the authority with which those messages are coming from? To the gentleman's point over there, right? It starts with God. And so I think that's where a private high school delivering those messages is really key, is that the worldview that those messages are delivered through comes from a biblical worldview.
And then partly why I came tonight too was I really did want to be a voice for the arts as well, because I feel like that's what gets cut first in the public system is art, music, theater, some of those opportunities. So I've been curious about how would Trinity do that if it stayed at 26 kids per grade, how could that look? Like, what would that look like? I'm just saying, like, I want to make sure it's advocated for and considered as well.
I'm Melissa, and I know some of the faces out here, but I teach 4th grade here. And I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and my family. We started out in public education at a school that does a really good job. But when my son was graduating from 4th grade, we just knew we needed something different for him and maybe for our other kids, and we came across Trinity. Took us a bit to decide, but it was the best decision we made. Not only were they academically challenged, but their foundation was set for life. And I was able to watch them grow, graduate from here in 8th grade and go on to a Lutheran high school, Concordia. And it has been so awesome to see them grow up on top of that foundation and know who they belong to. It has helped them in, give them discernment in their decisions that they've made, moving into college, and now watching my daughter as a married woman, how that has affected all of their relationships, their decisions. And I think I stand for a lot of our staff here that how awesome would it be that we can continue to touch more and more kids in our community and around, and just continue to grow that kingdom. So that's just what I wanted to share.
Two mics. We're going with 2 mics next time. Biggest decision of the year.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Angela. I'm Natalie's mom.
My mom retired from public school district because of the social agenda they've been pushing. Now I can tell you what I don't want in high school, because when she's done with high school, she can make that decision for herself. I want her to be a kid with the Christian foundation that we provide and that we expect her to get here all the way through 12th grade and hopefully through college. But it is so important. Look at what's happening today outside of the school. Thank you.
I'm Brett. I've had my kids here since pre-K all the way through. I love the character that they build here. I love the Warriors way that we have now. And just seeing my kids when they're out dealing with other kids and seeing their character. You know, I do my best, but I know it comes from the teachers. They have expectations, they correct language, they correct how they interact with each other. It's just so great to see when they come home what they've learned. They get their biblical knowledge deepened here. You know, they get to do their scripture verses, their monthly memory verses, that they are going to need those to step back and to lean on in high school. You know, they need those written in their heart. And then I like all the, you know, the kids are able to read the announcements. They build that confidence. They build that ability to be able to teach in front of everybody, you know. I didn't grow up with that, and kind of, as you can tell, I don't like speaking in front of people. So it's just encouraging every day to see that and see how they, you know, interact at Bible study. And I hear their leaders in Bible study say, oh, this is coming out, and this they know, and they can cite so much stuff. And I'm like, I know it's not all stuff I've taught them, so it's coming from their education.
You did great. And you have great kids too, all of them.
All right, I'm kind of here on a Q&A version. I'm curious how that they're looking at doing this. Are we looking at just opening the doors for 10th through 12th, 9th through 12th? Or I'm looking at Mr. Malzak. How are you going to do this? Or are they going to just start out in 9th grade, add on? I was in a school that we started when I was in 4th grade. There were 11 of us in the room, K through 6th grade. And then every year it doubled and it doubled. And that school is still going on the west side of Minneapolis. They're graduating over 100 kids a year. And when I got to 7th grade, they're like, oh, well, let's keep going. Let's add on 7th grade. And there were 7 of us. And that didn't work out so well. So that's where I kind of come into the, yes, we don't want to drop our arts. We don't want to leave kids behind, but we don't want to not give them AP college advanced classes. So where are we planning to start? I know it can be hit, and there are many people who are interested in coming and doing this, being on board with us. But that's kind of the questions that I come up with is, A, how many people, how many grades? How are you planning on doing this expansive education? All the electives, my daughter's a junior. She's actually taking a class down at River Falls this year because she wants to try legal. She wants to go into law, she thinks. We don't know about that, but she thinks she does. So she's taking high school and going down to River Falls University of River Falls, and taking an intro class down there, which we like because she's still in our house, so as she's learning law from a public school stance, we can still monitor it and see what she's learning and try and help her go in the right direction. But on that, people were talking about being able to learn like 2 years, or like a working not going to college, going to a 2-year school or something of that nature, being able to get that sort of education. I went to a college introduction thing last night over at the high school, and all the 2-year schools in the area have things available for kids to go and take a class. If they want to go and do welding classes, if they want to go and do, there's those opportunities. So would we be able to have time or allow the kids time to go and do those for electives? And that way we wouldn't have to have it at our school. Wouldn't have to necessarily send them over to the high school where they may have issues with dealing with all these high school kids, or public school kids. But yeah, that becomes kind of my questions is, where does this start and how are you planning on doing it? How many people are involved in this? I don't know. That's all. I'm excited though. Like I said, the school I started out with is, they had a 4-year anniversary and they put out a video and it had us in black and white. It was weird.
Thank you for asking that question. And just briefly, I'll say that this is exactly why we're here tonight. We're here to hear the questions that you have and here to hear the concerns. We've listened to general consensus all day from people, kind of what this could look like, how many students. Part of my job is to go back and put a number to it for people, so that's always part of the equation, but that's not the important part. The important part first is to catch the vision and to have a real understanding. And from what I hear, there's a lot of interest in the community. So certainly we likely aren't going to start with 500 students, but you never know what the Lord can do. And we're certainly planning for the future, making, I think, good decisions when it comes to architecture and planning. And so we want to make sure that you guys are set with something that's not only sustainable, but can grow in the future to what this community, really potentially may need. And you are exactly right. I think one of the most positive things that came out of the COVID experience is that we've learned that students can have a myriad of different forms of education, especially at the high school level, and that's something that we'll focus on because they don't just have to go to a classroom. They can visit the community college. They can take something virtually if there's something they're interested in. This school can personalize it exactly for what that student needs. And I want to comment too about the arts. I've heard that a couple times, and that can be a real feather in your cap. And so that's one of the things that we'll talk about too, is just exactly how all of those pieces, can work together. And so it's important that we take a look at that, as we're building this. And so I would say, yeah, we're going to start. I'm going to give a plan that's going to likely start with, part of the school maybe, and then more fuller, classes and all of those things. But because of the extreme personalization that we already know happens at Trinity, the amazing teachers who we all heard were willing to, do what it takes to make sure that this is a success, I think it will be a really great prospect for the future.
Hi, I'm Matt Johnson. I'm a 5th grade teacher here at Trinity. I just want to point out 2 things that I think are incredibly high assets at our school that makes it very positive and an awesome, great faith-based education for your children. One I want to highlight is that we develop these students to be servant leaders. We give these students opportunities to be able to publicly speak, to be able to do service and action projects. I think those would be highly valuable at the high school level as well. And then another thing to piggyback off of the importance of our faith-based education is every week we get to come together as a student body and worship. I think that is something that would be highly valuable in the high school level, being able to continue that weekly worship where we set aside all the social pieces, we set aside all the academics, and we come together as a student body and we take time to worship and give glory. We have students that lead our worship, and being able to see students continue that in high school would be incredible. So.
I have a question, since I guess maybe we moved more into questions than feedback. What is the anticipated kind of first class enrollment? Like, what year are we looking at, and what grade levels would be included during that first enrollment year?
Do you have an?
Sure, so a lot of that's gonna depend on the building planning, zoning department, all of those pieces. And people like you showing up, being here, all of you here tonight, this speaks volumes to what needs to happen. But then people are gonna have to get the community involved and rally around this. And I think, then you'll have a better idea of a timeline, and all of the pieces. And again, that's kind of what we're here to do tonight, is to figure out, okay, when realistically can we open this? Someone said tomorrow. I heard that earlier today. That's a bit tight for a time frame for us, but hopefully soon, at least in some capacity, and continue to build.
I'm Carrie. I'm coming at this from a slightly different perspective. I don't have kids, and I don't have kids in the school. But even from a distant outsider, I can see the extreme concerns that go on in the public school. And so I have nothing but sympathy and empathy and respect for all of you that are going through that in a very real way, on a very real basis. So I want to start with my heart, communicating how committed I am to Christian education, and Christian education for all the kids in our community as well. But I do have concerns about the practical and necessity. Is it practical, and is it necessary for Trinity to start a school, which would include a new building? And so these aren't perhaps questions that'll be answered tonight, but I would hope they'd be addressed in whatever comes up. Part of it is the demographics of Hudson in particular. It's shrinking as far as the kids go. The district is getting smaller for children, and there's no more land available for people to build new houses, so that's not likely to change. Family sizes are getting smaller, have been since 2007 across the nation, and that would make those kids 17 years old now, right? So graduating classes overall will be getting smaller and smaller. The Hudson Public District is dealing with the financial limitations of this and asking us for a referendum and a levy, right? And they're expecting a significant decrease by the year 2028. The direct financial burden to Trinity to build a new building has to be considered. Building costs have never been higher. And as far as I'm reading, this has been kind of a grassroots, ground up, and not necessarily big donors coming forward to offer to pay for millions and millions of dollars of it. We're still paying off the addition to the academy. I'm glad we did it. I have no, I'm glad that Trinity is putting that money towards the academy, but it does limit other aspects of the ministry. We were talking about building a second sanctuary a few years ago, and the biggest reason why nope, we don't want to do that, is because we were still in debt, and we didn't feel comfortable taking on more debt. So just the financial strain on the church and all three legs of the stool, or whatever analogy we're using now to describe Trinity, I would like to have that be addressed. And I'm glad to hear that some people who have kids that are older are finding success in Christian schools in the Twin Cities area. There are Christian high schools in the Twin Cities area. In fact, just a brief search found 9 within a 30-minute radius. There are 4 Catholic schools, elementary schools in the St. Croix County, and the Catholic Church has consciously decided to not build a high school. We currently have 1 school that we know would feed into it. I think it's worth appreciating why other groups haven't pursued something like what we're looking to do. And just throwing out an out-of-the-box idea, if there are aspects about Christian high school education that we want to embrace and we want our kids to be able to go to, would it be possible to set up like a busing system to one of the other schools, or to coordinate something that includes some of the high school, like we're already talking about, for the tech programs or things like that? Again, I want to go back to my first statement that I have I want to see Christian education survive and thrive, and I want your kids to be able to go to it. My hesitation is about Trinity building a new building to do that. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Thank you for that. Before we go, maybe we should explain what stage we're at in the process. It might help clear up some questions, so just our feasibility study, and that might answer some things for people. And then actually, you next. So if you want to speak to that, Jonathan?
Yeah, so our engagement is to do a Phase 1 feasibility study. And it's our job to figure out, what would the size of this need to be, and then what would it cost? And then to look at the church and school's finances and figure out how much can you afford to bite off. So that is part of what we're going to be looking at, is to see, do you have the capacity to bite this off, and to what extent? How big of a school could you do? So that's part of our study and figuring that out. But I appreciate what you're saying. There are some headwinds. It was Carrie, correct? You rightly note the demographics in the Hudson School District are flat and starting to decline. I think someone noted earlier today that the senior high school class has 100 more students than the kindergartners. Did I get that right? Like, it was significant.
It's like 160. So it's like there's 470 in the senior class, and our kindergarten class going through is 307.
Yeah, that's some headwind. So you bring up some very good points. Like, we have to figure out, is this wise? We have a lot of desire, we have a lot of energy, we have a lot of interest in doing it, but we have to also make sure it's prudent. And that's part of what we're going to figure out and come back with.
I'm Greg. I have 2 daughters who go to Trinity. I actually think these are great points that you brought up. I'm glad that you brought them up, actually. They would be coming down the road for me. Back to what I appreciate about Trinity. The teachers. I know they know my daughters. They might even know them better than me. It's possible. Sorry, that's an emotional point, but I know that when we came here, we interviewed one-on-one with Miss Johnson, and we knew right away that this is where we wanted our girls to go. We knew that the education, the faith aspect was going to be there. Going forward, they have grown immensely through the years, and we can see that, right? Do I want to send them out into a world, into the public schools? I'm a product of the public schools. 40 years ago, but I'm still a product of the public schools, and I know what the public schools can do, and I know what they've become, and what I see, what I envision, is a school that prepares them for that world that is full of lions and is really gonna look to eat them up. But you talk about civics course. I want some class to touch on, hey, you might run across people who say that your views are wrong, but you know what? You're entitled to them. Go out there and don't be afraid to share them. And that's a foundation of faith, but that's also a foundation of knowledge. And if you don't have that knowledge instilled in you, or even the ability to know how to learn, then that's a problem. And that's what I want. I heard some, I think you talked about there were other high schools they could go to. I know that there are other parents who are currently driving the 30 minutes, the 40 minutes to go to other high schools. They would love a high school here. I've spoken to others in the surrounding communities that have children. I know they would want to come here. Back to the feasibility. I don't know the feasibility. I'd love if, well, okay, that's not nice. I was thinking, well, you know, if a public school closed its doors and we bought that school, is it possible? I don't know. God can do anything, but that's... Sorry, Willow River, I didn't mean that. Anyway, that's, you know, these are all of the different things that run through my brain when I think of, you know, oh, the possibility of a high school. Would it come with, you know, would it be starting off with just the 9th grade? You know, our older daughter is in 8th grade. It's the largest class coming out of here. That's a big thing. That's huge. And to have that faith instilled in them, to go out into the world, to be Jesus with skin on to anyone they come across because of the teachers, because of the faculty and the staff, and what they learn in their every day. Mr. Johnson, I love that you brought up being able to come together once a week and do worship. Doing that every day would be great. But I understand you can't do that every day. But instill that into the next generation of high school if you're going to do a high school. I'd love that. Did I miss anything? No? Okay, I'm checking with the boss. I'm going to be quiet and sit down now. So I'm going to hand it back over to...
If I could ask a follow-up question. Carrie, you mentioned that the diocese decided not to do a Catholic high school. Do you know when they made that decision? Like, how recent was that?
It was probably, it was a while ago.
Okay.
You mentioned it too from St. Bridget's, yeah.
But I don't know that it was a diocese decision. I never got that.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we're seeing, and some of you have mentioned it, is that the status quo in religious versus public school education had a fundamental shift in COVID. Something dramatic changed. And that has changed the calculus of how many people are willing and interested in Christian schools that in the past would have been just content with public schools. So that's part of what we're trying to glean. You know, is there a small fervent support for a Christian high school here, or is there broad-based support that can financially achieve a high school here? Okay.
I am Andrew Malzak. I'm a parent here as well as a staff member. And one of the things that stands out for me here at Trinity is simply the community. And what I'm hearing tonight is we have people from all sorts of communities who are really interested in making this happen. And it's one of the things that I've heard for years now here is the community that we bring between parents who may never have come together before through the church aspect and meeting all these other people. And the ability to extend and go to a high school level to continue with that community, to reach out to more community and bring it in and just develop this area to a situation where we're bringing God into people's lives. We're continuing that faith education. That type of community is precious to us here, and being able to take that type of community and not just for the kids, but even for the parents, raising these kids is incredibly tough on us. And having these other like-minded individuals to be that support for us when we need it too is just such a foundational piece, not just for our kids, but for us as their parents too.
The valid point of the finances was brought up, but we keep talking about faith. And I believe God will show us where we can get the money from. I also believe that we are parents who believe in the same thing. And if we have to think outside the box on how to get this school started, whether it be in a small building that we rent for a while we wait for the funds to come for the bigger building, there are plenty of us parents who are willing to make it work. And I can help you think outside the box because I've already been looking at stuff like this and how can I teach my kids outside of Trinity once they go to high school? Because I am set against going to public school once they go to high school. So I will work with any parents to help you guys figure out how to get this high school built, one way or another. And I'm already well aware of alternate ways to teach our children while we get this school built.
Our school recently celebrated its 60th anniversary, and members of the original school board came up to talk, and one of them was the treasurer, and said, I remember days we didn't know how we were going to make payroll. And I had to get on the phone and say, Ed, can't make payroll tomorrow. Can you throw in some extra? So there may be some bootstrapping that has to take place. So there will be some sacrifice and commitments from families that will need to be made to make it happen. But if it's God's will, then we'll find a way to make it happen.
And you do have families from other communities that will help, absolutely.
Okay. I'm an accountant, so she started talking about numbers, and I'm like, it's my jam. So this is some of the questions that I wrote down in advance were in relation to how are we going to pay for it, because it sounds like there's some really passionate people that want this to happen, even outside of Trinity. You know, got people from Somerset, River Falls, and yes, like, you know, depending on where parents work, having to cart their kids somewhere else, maybe in the opposite direction, 30, 40 minutes is just not feasible from like a daily routine standpoint. So the idea of having school here would, I think there's a lot of demand for it. And yes, the other things I thought about that I wrote on here was the study that the public school just did, talking about declining enrollments. I do feel like there's the demographics, but I do feel like there's maybe some other data that they don't talk about so much in those numbers. You know, people looking at other options. Maybe there's people who are homeschooling because they don't have any other options. Again, there's people having to drive 30, 40 minutes because there are no other options. So from a financial perspective, I do agree with her as well. There's a lot of options out there, and as part of the feasibility study, I would like to see all of, you know, as many options as you guys can think of, not just let's build the big brand new thing, because that's a lot of times a big waste of money. There might be an existing building that we can convert or partially convert, you know, if it's do a 4-year plan where let's start with the 9th grade, you know, take that time so you can save up the money to afford adding the next one. Having kind of a metered plan over time could work. You know, what other, if we want it in the city of Hudson, take a breath. If you want it in the city of Hudson, like I said, you know, are there existing buildings that would work? You know, that from a financial, being a very frugal person, it's like, you know, or is there maybe a couple buildings, like if we're doing that, maybe 9th and 10th is in this building because that's what we got for now and we rent it, and then we can make plans in another building, or is the public schools close some of their stuff? I like that idea. That maybe we can sneak in and, you know, grab some of they're selling that admin building. I don't know who they're selling it to, but just saying. Yeah. It would just be nice to get creative with this, because I think that there's a lot of, you know, passion and heart behind this idea and that people really want it. And if, real education and human character is built on the human experience, not fancy buildings. And so I think that we can at least understand that in order to make this happen, we might, make some sacrifices, but it's the heart of the people that really matter. It's not the big fancy buildings that have really high maintenance costs. It's the people in it. So.
Hi there, Paige Hartung. I'm a 4K teacher here at Trinity. I was out with some of the staff tonight, and not my idea, but no, not going out with the staff. I'm sorry, totally wrong. Okay, I enjoy going out with my staff. I love the staff. Yes, that was a plan. Okay, but the next part that I'm going to say was not my idea. I'm assuming this was Allison Johnson's idea, but. No, it's good. I promise what I'm gonna say is good. Oh man, I'm just really killing it here. Okay, so when we built the addition for the middle school, it was brought to my attention tonight that there was an agreement with the families with the first few years that they were to make a contract that they were to stay for the full 3 years. So the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and that doing that paid off our addition in 4 years. So a commitment. Yep, a commitment. So they had to commit to the 3 years instead of trying out 6th grade and then leaving after that. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. This would be an idea going forth with the high school so that we could possibly do a commitment with that. So that we know that we will have those numbers continuously for the next 4 years.
Hi, I'm Doreen Bonk. I am a product of a Christian high school, and I'm just wondering, as far as funding for a new one, the school I came from was funded by a whole bunch of Christian churches in the surrounding areas. And so they all, supported it and have continued still to send their kids, whether or not they currently have a grade school or not. And just wondering if that's something that's been looked at for, pulling in funding from, different towns and things like that.
Hello, I'm Melissa, and I am a Trinity Academy alumni family. I have had 3 kids that went through the school here from preschool through 8th grade. And I had my 3 kids, when we were ready to look at high schools, I interviewed 4 high schools, 2 private and 2 public. And we ultimately settled on Concordia Academy in Roseville, 35 minutes from our house. There is a shuttle that goes from Hudson to the school in the morning. I didn't want to have them go that far, but that was the choice that we made, and it's a wonderful school, and it would be awesome to have one in town. I think there'd be a great support, and you should definitely think about tapping into Trinity Academy alumni. I know that there are a lot of us here, so that would support such endeavors of that. And then at Concordia Academy, they actually have chapel twice a week, where they worship, and they have assemblies, they have all the things that high schools and other high schools do. And I will tell you, the staff there is amazing, absolutely amazing. So.
And I'm going to add to that because my kids went there too. If we could take Concordia Academy and put it here, all of the things that my kids had at Trinity, they continued at Concordia. The academics, continuing with, their Christian education. They got to learn about Jesus and math. They could, the college classes were amazing. At Concordia, they were taking college classes while they were in high school, which I don't know if that's a specifically Minnesota thing, the PSCO classes. Because that's amazing. all three of my kids graduated as seniors at Concordia, having already a year of college under their belts. So they're graduating from college in 3 years. So even though we were paying tuition at Concordia, they had one less year of college. So if we were able to do something like that here, that would be amazing.
Could I steer the conversation a little bit? So if we build a high school, I'd like to give our architect a little bit of direction. So let's talk about class sizes, grade sizes, amenities. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations for what this would look like?
Luke again. Grade size, you could expand that, have, more teachers in the same grade. The size is good because it gives enough personal direction for each student so that they can interact with the teacher, get any necessary corrections they needed in what they're learning. I would like to see an area of trade, like welding, machinery, woodworking, something like that, so that kids that aren't necessarily wanting to go to college can have something that helps point them off into the trades, because it's also a viable secondary, education system.
Others echo that? Just Yeah, the question was, what would people be willing to pay for tuition for the high school? We're going to do a survey and try to elicit that from the community and understand, what are people's threshold for ability to pay?
I'd like to see a decent amount of outside space. Our kids are kept inside the classroom all the time, and God created the sun, so why not create more class types outside? Let's use our hands, let's use our brains, let's think about how to solve this in our own way. Let's look at the public schools and see how they literally set them up. I hate to say it, like prisoners. You go to lunch, you go to your class, you listen to a bell, setting them up for, the factory. Can we do something different so we're not just like the public schools? Let's stand out so people actually want to come to our high school and go, hey, those kids get a different experience. They go out in the world and they feel a little more complete than just, I'm going to go work in a factory now because I didn't know how to do that.
Hi, Greg again. No, don't shut down the public school. I am a theologian, philosopher at heart. It's actually where my degree from college stands. So when I think about a Christian high school, I do think, my background is Lutheran, however, I think ecumenical from a standpoint of foundation's there. By the time you hit high school, the foundation is there. Whatever your background, Baptist or Catholic or Lutheran, it's already there. You don't have to have a specific doctrine. You can kind of, it can still be there, but you can have discussion about that. You can, the base foundation is what's most important, right? Jesus came, Jesus died, he rose again, you're forgiven, right? I don't think there needs to be a lot of, you need to teach this doctrine or that doctrine. There's probably going to be a lot of disagreement on that. And I'm standing as a Lutheran background, as a Lutheran bachelor's degree, standing here saying that. I think that the foundation is the most important. and they've got it by the time, well, and they might not, I don't know. You might have students coming in from public schools, but does that make sense? Okay, all right.
What I hear you saying is we need to define if it's going to be Missouri Synod Lutheran High School or a Christian high school.
Right, and I would go for the latter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just speak to the design itself. I'm sorry, I'm Dave Spaeth. You know, when I think about the design, I think there's a lot of things you'd want to think about that obviously there's a lot of unknowns at this point, and you think about, well, what would enrollment be? You know, what are we expecting for growth? And I think when you think of design, I would think of, you know, obviously trying to build something that can easily be expanded upon, but yet also considering, you know, I think people really value an affordable Christian education as much as possible. And again, not that I'm not willing to be burdened to provide that for my children, but I think there's certain things you can incorporate in design that would keep that in mind.
Hi, Marie Anderson. I think in regards to space, we have a beautiful gym downstairs. It was brand new. It'd be nice to be able to actually have a dedicated gym space that doesn't also have to be used as a lunchroom, so that we can utilize it for what its purpose is, to host things that would also generate income potentially. Yes, green space is wonderful. Art would be wonderful to have. We have an amazing art teacher. Also, music. We have wonderful music teachers. We have 2 of them. They're great. I think both of those things would be wonderful to have.
My name is Mary Dickey, and I really believe that the sizes should be no more than 25 kids per class. Yeah, because because of different levels of learning for each of the kids, and that would give the teachers more time to spend with those people that need the extra time. But I do truly believe they should be no more than 25 kids in the class, period.
Just thinking about cost and ramping up to you know, kind of getting to the eventual reality of whatever the facility is going to look like. Is there an opportunity to explore looking at utilizing existing facilities and spaces in the community in the interim until Trinity can have their own spaces? And so what I mean by that is if Trinity High School is going to have a tennis team, right? Do they look at making an agreement with the high school to use the tennis courts at the high school? If Trinity High School is going to have a football team, do they look at utilizing and making an agreement with the high school to be able to leverage their facilities, so on and so forth? I think from a sports perspective, right, because those are the things that get really expensive. We know in Hudson there was a referendum in 2017 that was extremely costly, and the community actually was a little bit disappointed at the end of it because of how it wasn't managed very well, and the community invested a lot of money. The facilities are amazing. So if there's opportunity for Trinity to capitalize on those existing assets, I guess I would make that recommendation, because if those are things that are valuable to parents as a part of their child's high school experience, then that might be an avenue.
I think it would be really valuable to have those facilities right there where the school is. That's kind of what makes your community. I know it would be expensive, but it doesn't have to be big and bold and beautiful like the Hudson High School has it. You can make a football field out of grass and paint some lines and put up some bleachers. It doesn't have to start out, you know, $1 million facility or anything like that. And as far as like class sizes, you know, 28, you know, you're talking high schoolers here. You're not talking kindergartners, first graders that really need as much hand-holding. And certainly you'd want some kind of a resource space. I don't know, at Concordia they called it resource room for kids who needed, you know, extra help. as far as, reading, learning, that had other issues that way. Yeah, and then just had, I don't know, I think a really full curriculum. They have, everything that, they have a huge science area. They've got art, science, everything that a regular high school would have. I would just love to see the whole gamut of curriculum like they've got there. Just like really move the whole thing over here and bring all the teachers because they're all awesome. And have a chapel, a dedicated chapel space. The students lead chapel every week, twice a week, and then they use the same space for drama. And the high school I went to out in Mayor Lutheran, it's based on the same thing. So I'm sure you guys have seen this before, being that they're all Lutheran schools. So
How big are the class sizes?
about 28 to 30. Yeah.
Oh,
the class,
I think right now it's about 350 total, 9 to 12.
Yeah.
And I want to say
my son just graduated last year, and I think he had 77 in his class. But he had one of the smaller classes. They've grown since COVID. So, yeah.
And I would just add too, like high school, like my kids went here through kindergarten through 8th, but then they were like, I need a new experience. So like having a high school that's almost separate, where it's their own space, would be, I think, beneficial at that age.
Hi, my name is Rob Kopp, and we have 2 kids here in Trinity. And I think I just wanted to offer a perspective that I haven't heard yet. Love the school. Our kids love it. We love it. And this is fantastic community. Personal dilemma that I have. So our daughter's in 6th grade, and so we're coming up on decision time, right? This has been a great conversation. I would have told you coming into tonight that I think my dilemma, our dilemma at home, and these are my words, when does the bubble wrap come off? So the runway's gonna end. We're here for a purpose with our kids. Absolutely love it. We love what they're doing with them and for them, and for us as a family. But it's kind of a nervous time, right? And so that runway is going to end at some point. Does that end at 8th grade? Does that end at 12th grade? So I think that we are looking at that, and fantastic conversation. I think Greg, to your point, when has the foundation been built? I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. I certainly don't know the answer to that. But I think about our kids going into the public school system, and I also think we've got our Trinity community, but we also have our Hudson community. And so we have been part of Hudson for 10 plus years, and we love Hudson. And there are a lot of great people, great families, great kids, great parents, part of Hudson, not part of Trinity, who either by choice or just by circumstance and not as blessed or fortunate to be part of Trinity. And one of the things that I think about is in those situations where there are kids in public schools who maybe aren't as fortunate to be able to be part of Trinity, boy, what an opportunity for our kids to join them where they're at and help support them as they go forward through high school and things like that. Vice versa, having our kids experience tremendous things from Trinity, from the teachers, the staff, the entire community, their fellow students, but also making sure that they experience that same support and connection with non-Trinity, right? Parents and students and friends and things like that. So that's not a statement of decision on, what we would do or whatever the case is, but it's just more of a representing a perspective that, hey, that's a dilemma that we think about as far as the when. So whether that's 8th grade, 12th grade, this is certainly a compelling conversation. Love the conversation, love the community. And well, it only makes that conundrum more difficult. But it's a good problem to have.
Can I make a comment on that? This is really hard for me. So our son is African American, right? So thankful for this community because it doesn't matter where he goes. He could go to a public school. He's going to Concordia Academy. A couple of weeks ago, he was called a monkey and he was called the N-word at Concordia Academy. It doesn't matter where we send him, right? The bubble wrap's got to come off sometime. The foundation he learned at this school, the compassion, the care, the love, was just so great for him, where he came to me when I picked him up. He came in the car, he said, "Dad, this is what happened today at school." We talked about it, right? So it doesn't matter where he goes. But it's what we teach him. It's what this school taught him. And how does he handle that situation when it's presented to him? Right? The public schools, right? I came from a public school. I taught there for 21 years. Not all public schools are the same, right? The public school I went to, Missy knows, St. Croix Central Elementary School in Roberts, Wisconsin, one of the best schools you'll ever find. The enrollment is just booming. The virtual school went from just a few kids. Now the virtual school there is over 300 students, right? They're just dying for somewhere to go. So we have to advocate for this school. And we have to keep in mind, though, we can't just reach for the stars and say we want everything. No, we can't do that. We have to start small, right? And we have to build. That's the way it's going to be. We can't afford this. Our family is lucky enough we can afford to send Malik there. Other parents are going to be looking for somewhere affordable to go, and we have to make it affordable for these families to come to this school. Thank you.
On the school size, the class size. So I come from Southern California, and we had 30 plus kids. And I can tell you right now, we had some of the worst coming out of California. You need smaller sizes. You need 25. You start getting up towards 30, and I understand that you're having bigger classes. My graduating class was 350 kids. And I can tell you the only reason why I did well is because I went to AP. And so my class size was around 20 kids, because you had to test into that. You can't just take them. By the grace of God, he's like, I'm going to put you in there, kid, because you're not going to do well anywhere else. So I do think we need to keep it small. Otherwise, we're going to be facing what California faces when they have 30, 35 kids. The teachers are going to be overwhelmed, which is why the teachers, they struggle today. They've got too many kids coming at them, and unfortunately, the parents aren't helping. Now, that's the difference about this community. My kids know if they get in trouble here, it's worse when they get home. Okay? They know not to. My son, I told Jonica, if my son gets in trouble, you have him call me at school. And he will call me like, "Mommy." I'm like, "Oh, wait till your dad finds out." So that's the difference. And we may have kids coming from other schools, public schools. So they are going to get exposed to not such nice things. Okay? My husband's worried about the same thing. Our kids are going to be bubble wrapped. Like, no, they're not going to throw them out there. Say, go ahead, kid, get called a name. Let's see how you deal with it. Okay? As a parent, I understand they have to be exposed to these things. I'm not bubble wrapping them. And Trinity doesn't bubble wrap them either. I mean, we have instances here, but we learn to deal with them. So I do think our high school will still be exposed. It's just It's a controlled exposure where right now in public school, parents send their kids and they don't know what they're going to deal with when they get home. That is what scares the living daylights out of me right now. It's like, I don't know what they're teaching you, and what are they brainwashing you with that you're not being able to tell me because they have scared you to not tell me. Or they don't know what they're being taught. So that's why I think we have to advocate for this. And I think a lot of parents are begging for more schools like this because they don't have a choice. And so I don't think enrollment's going to be an issue. I think a lot of parents have pulled their kids out and figured out how to homeschool while working. And they're begging for a different solution because I'm sure that's not easy.
I wasn't expecting to be here. I drove over from Roberts. Was listening online. My name is Jade Hildahl. I bring several different perspectives on this from my own life experience. I went to a Christian private high school, and I've heard people online, and I empathize with you talking about the arts and welding, and so I'd like to share my experience. It was a boarding high school in North Carolina. We had one building. Everybody in my class, except me, for the most part, went on to Ivy League schools. I went into the nuclear program for the United States. So we were all like well-educated coming out of that school. We had the arts because parents and teachers would do that. Some of the science teachers would teach welding, so I got welding because I came from a public school and I wanted to weld. I did my college trig in 11 days. And then I was able to use that time at that school to do other things for college level education because the school allowed me to go beyond my grade level. So I'm just encouraging you, think about Baldwin. If you don't know about the Baldwin public or the private school, their model is very small. The kids can go beyond their grade level if they're ready. So we don't need to just try to build an elaborate building or facility that can compete with the public schools. We can add that on. My daughter's in swimming. I just came from, she's standing right back here right now. She's in competitive swimming 2 hours a night. We can still do those things. If you want that for your child, you will figure out a way. But what matters most is the Christian education. And I say this because I teach Christian apologetics at Northwestern. And I see homeschool kids coming in, public school kids coming in, and private school kids coming in. And let me tell you, the education system in college encourages kids to believe some really crazy things. And I teach Christian apologetics, and I can argue for the faith and defend the faith against a scientist because I was a nuclear engineer, or against a Muslim because I teach Islamic apologetics. If you're interested, I'll take you out to meet some Muslims. But I'm just saying, we don't need an elaborate facility to get started. What matters most to your kids is that you launch them with a solid foundation where they can defend their faith against any skeptic. And then after that, you can have the arts. Parents, we can make that happen for our kids.
I think as far as like the actual building is kind of one of the things that seemed like you were talking about. Chapel is the most important, and that should be the center. Build off from that. I picture, okay, I graduated from Stillwater. So the Stillwater High School, which is crazy, but they built it so that there was, like the entryway was a big round way, and then they had wings going off of it. And I kind of envisioned that the center would be the chapel. And then you'd have English over here, science there, math there. A little more room for people to go, even if it was small. So this is the dream campus in the future. But that the kids would have more space to move. So it's not one just little tiny space. But the chapel should be the center. Separate gym from cafeteria. Those are my requirements. Again, I was in a school that started with 13 of us, and the next year there were 24, the next year there were 36, the next year, and we moved from the dormitories at the it was Associated Free Lutheran Churches, and they have a Bible school for after high school. So we were in the dorms for that. We had 2 rooms. First 1 room, then 2 rooms, then 3 rooms. Then they rented out one of the public schools that closed, which was far away, so we totally moved and went there. We were there for a couple of years. That's where I hit 7th grade, and we had classes in the, I remember sitting in the stairway studying for math because we were tired of the 4th graders. But it's what we did to start. In our area, you're talking about how the school sizes are getting smaller. I'm in North Hudson. They're adding on to it because they want to close 2 of our elementary schools. One of which is probably going to close a lot sooner than later. Maybe that's where we could go. And we could rent that out. And it's a lot closer than going over to Concordia. And we wouldn't have to build anything yet. And it's big enough for us to grow into. It wouldn't have all the great things, but eventually, like the school I went to, they built this huge campus, and the chapel is the center, and it moves off from there. So I guess looking at future building, that's what I would expect.
I'll give it to you quickly. My high school was a small building. I didn't say it was like 4 rooms. And then I went to college. My doctorate was from Southern Evangelical, and they were 1 building with about 5 rooms. And they sold that, and they're fully online now. But I'm just saying, we can think outside of the box here.
I appreciate the private school parents' perspective and the public school parents' perspective. Curriculum transparency is absolutely key, right? That's what parents are really upset and distraught over right now. And I can speak to that from personal experience. I have had to opt my children out of certain things. I have had to dig and dig and dig and inquire to get straight answers on why are you reading this book and what is the purpose of this book. Again, books themselves are not what scare me. It's what are the discussions? What are the questions? What are the thoughts that are being provoked in my child when she reads a particular piece of literature, right? And so in a Christian school, I can trust that when she reads a piece of literature, the questions and thoughts that are going to be provoked are going to be based on a biblical worldview. In the public school, that is not what you get right now. Everything right now is through the lens of race and gender and identity. That's what the lens is right now in the public schools. So when my child is reading a particular piece of literature and she comes home, those are things I have to discuss with her and correct. Now, I'm not going to say that when I ask for those things, that they're not being given to me. They are. But at the same time, as a parent, it quite frankly is exhausting to have to constantly be on the defense to correct those things. I don't want to be in that position anymore.
And you want a school, if I may, where the parent is seen as the authority for their child. 100%. The parent is the ultimate authority for their child. Not some bureaucrat. Not some school board. It's up to the parent. So there's nothing to hide because it's transparent. You decide for your child.
Hi, my name's Allison, and I have the luxury of remembering when this school was very small, and there was a lot of prayer involved. And what I want to just encourage everybody, and I thank you so much for all the great things that have been said tonight, because this school has grown, but God has been at the center. And he should continue to be at the center of this conversation about the high school. And I just encourage everyone here and everybody online to really lift this up in prayer for our community. So thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm the mic person.
Hi, Brett again. I know everybody talks about building a beautiful facility with the sports, with the athletics. When we read in the scriptures, nowhere do I read about the athletics. Nowhere do I read about that being a focus of a Christian education. You know, I read about that, about worship, about the arts. You know, look at somebody that focused on the arts, built that beautiful thing on the altar. You know, there's not an athletics program that built that. I did a short stint at Hill Murray, and that's one of their big drives is the athletics. People send their kids there to Hill Murray for hockey. And then you go into chapel and not a single one of them is a believer. Not a single one of them is a practicing one, but they're all going there to that school for the athletics program. You know, if you're gonna build a school, I want it to be focused on the biblical doctrine, you know, like you said, not just one doctrine, but focused on Christ as the center. Focus our education on that. Bring our kids up with life skills so that they can go out. They can go out and see the lions, and they know how to act around them. You know, so many of the other schools that are failing, oh, they got great sports facilities, but the kids are just failed by their teachers. So, like you even said with the small class or small school, we don't need a big elaborate facility. You could build a pole, you know, it's Western Wisconsin. Build a pole barn, divide it up into classrooms. We're gonna send our kids there. I'm like, if you put a cross on the front of a pole barn, my kids are coming there right away. I don't need sports facilities, you know, you can put grass around it. You know, look at here, our kids, they play in a parking lot, and they come home with scrapes and scratches all over, happy as could be. So, I don't know, I see it as being more on the gospel, more on scripture, less on sports.
I think we got time for a couple more.
Sure. I can't see without my glasses because I'm old. To the point that was being made about the book, so I'm Angela, to the point that was being made about the book, Mrs. Greenis, I'm sorry, but I emailed her because they were going to start reading a book I wasn't familiar with. But it wasn't because I was concerned about what was being taught or what the message was going to be. It was, I have a tender-hearted fourth grader, and I just wanted to make sure that she was going to be okay. So, sorry. I got a couple of questions from somebody who's attending online. One of the questions is really around accepting students. Would Trinity students get priority for enrollment? Another question would be, Mr. Schonecker, we love you, but would there be a second principal? He didn't even hear that. Sounds good. And then just with around hiring the teachers and how do we make sure that the greatness that we have today gets continued in the high school? Have your job.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I have come tonight. I'm researching, just looking at other schools in the community. My son is at a really great Christian school. It only goes until 8th grade, so this is my second school visit today. And I drove 40 minutes today to visit another school. Like I said, I live in New Richmond. We've been here about 3 years, and we're coming from the Twin Cities. And I just want to say that with feasibility, if you would look at the surrounding communities, like we've talked about, outside of Hudson, I know that Hudson's kind of flatlining with school enrollment. The other surrounding communities are booming. Like if you look at New Richmond's numbers, it's just skyrocketing. So please consider that. There are a lot of families looking for Christian education. I have several friends who are homeschoolers. I was a former homeschooler as well. So we're just tired of how the school system is. And then I would say, like, there are so many great schools and churches in the area that go K through 8, to maybe partner with them and, you know, get a consortium of these groups together to have a forum just like this, but with these other schools, because I think you're going to find that there's a huge need in the community. And for those of us that are here, we're looking at schools in the Twin Cities to send our kids to, because there isn't an option here. There's a couple little pockets of small Christian schools, but that's it. So I would just consider that in your study as you're putting this together. Thank you.
You're in Richmond?
New Richmond.
New Richmond?
Yep. And it's close to Somerset. Somerset's also a booming community. Like, we moved out of the Twin Cities for that very reason, for what was happening with COVID, what was happening in the school system, and there's a ton of families that are coming from the Twin Cities out this way. Okay, Baldwin, New Richmond, Somerset.
And around us, we do have a very booming homeschool community because we don't have a lot of options. We have, one small church Catholic school in Somerset that only goes to 8th grade. And there are very few options, and I have so many neighbors that are homeschoolers because at least at that point you can control what's coming in, and with all the online capabilities now, it's a lot more easier for that. In terms of school size and amenities, we've been parents of kids in school for a couple decades or so, and I'll tell you, we moved from Lakeville. They had a high-level athletics club and sports and all the niceties. And I'll tell you, our son, he started in that, and then when he was 16, he had to choose between athletics and work. And you know what we told him? Boy, you go to work. Learn to work. Learn to go and do the hard work. And that's what he did. And I'll tell you, sports are great. But there are options for sports. But I would tell you, the faith aspect, the hard work, the character, those are things. The outbuilding with basic rooms. I mean, if we have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I think many people would be perfectly happy with that. There are so many extracurriculars. We can't hold back the extracurriculars. It's overwhelming. We need more time when our kids can just be kids and can have friends and can have family time. So if this is we can't do it because we can't have all the niceties and the big things, I don't know that everybody actually needs that. They need a place.
I appreciate that, because that's part of what I wanted to glean from you. Because we've heard in other schools that, well, there's not the sports experience, so therefore we can't attract the students that we need, and it really hinders our growth. It sounds like, from what I'm hearing from you, we want a Christian school where Christian values are the foundation of what's taught. Everything else is secondary. Okay. Mary?
Hudson boosters. They have football, they have soccer, they have baseball. Kids have opportunities to join all those activities. So we really need it in the school itself because they have that already. What the booster club.
Which is your point, Brett. You can get those in other places. Okay.
Well, we even, here at Trinity, we have cross-country, we have basketball, we have volleyball. Yeah, the kids may not, cross-country, a lot of kids are in. The other two are kind of a hit and miss, whether we get kids in or not. At a high school, we'll probably have more people who want to do it. So we have the ability, but you don't have to be huge, you don't have to go crazy places, you don't have to build a big, huge tennis court, you don't have to build crazy rooms. We've got our gym, that's our lunchroom. I'd rather have the gym separate from the lunchroom, just because they're high schoolers and need more space. But you can still have basic sports, and sports are important. It kind of goes up there with music for me. It's a place to get together and meet people with your heart. You're working together to build something big as a team to do stuff. But yes, faith is first. The classes, the
One more.
Thank you.
Michelle, right?
Well, I was just going to say, we've been talking for a couple hours and just hearing what parents want in a high school. I think we need to ask our students, because I tried everything to get my daughter to go to Concordia, everything. I tried to pay her to go there, and she wouldn't. So I think we need to ask the students what they want in a high school, because I think they have a say in it too, and that's pretty important. We want a school where they want to go to and are excited to go to.
Yeah, survey. We'll survey the students as well to elicit that feedback as well. Okay. Well, this was very, very helpful. You invested 2 hours with us tonight, and I am grateful for your time, for your honesty, your direction and feedback. Mr. Schonecker, I hope this was helpful for you to hear the feedback from your community and what they desire and what they want to see here, and the passion of the community here is touching. It really is. So we will go back and do our homework. We'll work on designs, coming up with cost estimates, coming up with financial planning and direction, and helping you put together what a plan of this would look like, and put together a 5-year projection on that, working with your executive leadership on what can be achieved financially. We'll work on surveys. So the hope is that next month you will be receiving surveys to start to glean, okay, if this happens, what is your ability to pay tuition? How do we finance this? What are options to pay for this? What do we need as far as a capital campaign goes? What might you need for a loan? How much of that could be raised through a capital campaign up front with the balance financed? Those are all part of what we need to figure out next, and figure out how much this community is willing to get behind it and finance it and pay for it and get it done. Because there's no doubt from the passion in this room, the desire is there. Now we have to figure out how to do it. So any final thoughts or comments before I turn it over to Pastor to close us in prayer?
Apparently, I lost my job when I left the room.
Yeah, you did. You might need to find a ride home.
No, just thank you guys all for coming. A lot of positivity in the room, which is awesome. And then when doubt seeps in, just remember that, if there's anything I've learned at Trinity, personally, it's to remember to see the world as God's plan, as opposed to a set of coincidences. Sure, enrollment's going down in the public school, but ours is going up. And there's a reason for that, and you guys stated those reasons tonight. Okay? I firmly believe that like a devotion, when you say it out loud and you believe it, we talk as a staff about our collective efficacy. How strong is our belief that we are the right people to get it done for kids? And at Trinity, it's as high as it can get. And that's why it goes well. So when you meet people out on the street and they talk to you about this exciting new venture we're taking, we keep it positive and collective, and continue to move forward with this plan and see where God takes us. So, Pastor Mark.
It's a long night, so I'm not going to talk long. Let's just pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the passion in this room for these parents, about their kids and their education. And I just thank you, Lord, for this school once again, and all the teachers and the staff. And now we just pray for vision. We pray for guidance. We pray for generosity. We continue to pray for a way forward to just make this happen. And so, Lord, just continue to work through this process. Give us patience when we need it, and continue to show us and show up in a mighty way that this can possibility could come, this dream could come reality. So be with us this night, give us a quiet night's rest, that when we wake up in the morning, we can be the people you've called us to be once again. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.